On today's video, we're going to take a look back at Week 10 and look at Chiefs versus Jags and what's changed from then to now. We're also going to look at Bills versus Bengals and give you our first impressions. Stick around.
What's happening, Chiefs Kingdom? It is the week of the divisional round and the start of the playoffs for your Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty pumped about it. We'll be facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have faced them one time this season back in Week 10 at Arrowhead. Ended up getting the 27-17 dub. Mike, how did that game go for us? What was good? What was bad? All of it.
Hey, this was a game we thought we were going to go in and we were going to kind of roll through it. And that was one of the first ones of the season that we've seen. It didn't really go like that for us. If I'm not mistaken, the opening kickoff, the Jags got an onside kick. They come out right out of the gate doing something crazy. So I expect to see even more craziness going forward.
Yeah, so the Chiefs actually had 3 turnovers that game. They had 2 fumbles, one from Isaiah Pacheco, one from Jody Fortson, and then Patrick Mahomes threw an interception to Andre Cisco in the fourth quarter, who laid out Juju earlier in the game, made him miss a big portion of the game. Patrick Mahomes, though, overall, he had a pretty good game, didn't he, Mike?
Yeah, he ended up going 26 for 35. 331 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then he did have that pick late. Cisco and the defense was a problem all day long for the Chiefs, it seemed, especially in the second half. Our offense kind of sputtered for the rest of the half. That's one thing about I've noticed with Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars is they are very good at adjusting at halftime. We've seen that versus the Chargers just this last week. The Chargers had that game in hand. I seen where some guy actually bet mid-game and lost like $1.4 million on that. Like, come on now.
Why would you do that? But yeah, they do have really good in-game adjustments, and that's something that we as fans have thought that Andy and Spags and the likes have been struggling with all season. Even at the end of last season, like, what's up with these in-game adjustments? Like, why are you a totally different team from the first half to the second half? And usually when the Chiefs do that, it goes downhill, not uphill, like it has been for the Jags.
Right. And I think the Jags at halftime actually got it together and they started executing better. If you go back and rewatch that game in the first half, they were missing a lot of easy passes. They wasn't hitting a lot of blocks. They wasn't doing things right. I think it was looking at that Spags defense. That Spags defense is kind of confusing. You don't see people run that kind of stuff. Moving Chris Jones around, alternating those D linemen, doing things like that, sending corners, sending safeties, you name it. I think that was new for Trevor Lawrence, but they did pick up on it at the half and they executed better. And that's what Peterson said they need to do. They need to score touchdowns. They need to execute better. I look for this game coming up here this weekend, and it's going to be a shootout in a way because I don't think the Jags are going to want to punt the ball. I think they're going to try to score touchdowns and only touchdowns because they know they have to do that to win.
Right. Well, last game, they didn't get much of a run game together. They only rushed for 75 yards total, and a lot of that was Trevor Lawrence scrambling. We, on the other hand, had a good game on the ground. Isaiah Pacheco ran for 82 yards. Patrick Mahomes scrambled for like 39 yards. Even Kadarius Toney had 2 carries for about 33 yards. So we had a pretty good game on the ground, and that opened a lot of things up for Patrick Mahomes. If you look back at his 4 touchdowns, he was spreading the ball out. Noah Gray got a touchdown. Travis Kelce got a touchdown. Marquez Valdez-Scantling got a touchdown. And there was another one in there I can't think off the top of my head, but they were spreading the ball around really well. And I think that comes from establishing a good run game, and it opens things up for the pass game, and it made that game a little bit easier for the Chiefs, and you didn't see the offense sputtering as much as you did later in the season because of that.
I know Pacheco had that fumble, and he lost the fumble there early against the Jaguars. They ended up going back to him. It was just a few weeks later, he did the same thing against the Texans, and that's when Andy Reid pulled him for almost the entire first half, and they were like, look, that was your 4th fumble on the year. Get it together. Hopefully Isaiah Pacheco's got it together. Hopefully they will not have any rookie nerves. They'll come out and do it well. One other note before we move on. The Jags actually left 10 points on the board in the first meeting. If you remember, they missed 2 field goals and they had a touchdown called back due to a penalty. So 27-17, and they left 10 on the board. They were right there with us, and it all come within the second half. So again, the Chiefs cannot let the foot up off the gas pedal. They have to keep pressing and moving forward.
Since that Chiefs game, the Jaguars have only lost one other game, and that was to Detroit at Detroit. It was a pretty hefty margin, like 40-14. So not a good game for the Jags. But other than that, they've been like 7-1 or 8-1, counting this Chargers game since that Chiefs game. So this is a totally different team we're looking at now than we were looking at back in Week 10. Obviously, something clicked around that time, and they went from the 3-7 Jaguars to making the playoffs and winning, the wild card round, making it to the divisional round against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Mike, how's this team looking different than they were earlier in the season, and how can that change the way this game is played out as opposed to Week 10?
Yeah, so the first 9 games before they played the Chiefs, I felt like it was just the Jags. They were They were being taught what they needed to by the coaching staff, but it's almost like they couldn't get it together. They figured out how to win, though. They learned to win. It's as simple as that. They went from learning to lose and being used to that to learning to win. You've seen that click over, and in the second half of the season, that team just executes. They play with a little bit of a confidence about them. The offense believes they can score. The defense believes they can shut you down. They play just very confident, and they play to win now. They're not the Jaguars that get beat up and kicked to the curb. They're the Jaguars that want to come out and prove something. And I think they're just playing with a lot to prove right now.
Right. And if you look at the offense earlier in the season, you weren't hearing much out of ETN and Evan Ingram, but now those are names you're constantly hearing. So they're hot. Like in the first matchup that we played them, it was basically the Christian Kirk show for them on offense. But now they have much more weapons, much more opportunities for Trevor Lawrence to spread this ball around. Seems like that team's getting it all together. And then on the other side of the ball on the defense, Josh Allen's been their highest rated player since that week, probably, according to PFF. So, I mean, this guy, he's killing it on the pass rush game. And then you had Arden Key on the other side. You have the rookie Trayvon Walker. I mean, they have a good pass rush, and I think that started to come together for them as well since the midpoint in the season. And that's what helped them defensively and ultimately helped them win these games.
Yeah, you seen the Jags early in the season relied on their defense for those early wins, and then it kind of it slumped. The offense defense kind of played off each other, and they both got in a funk. And now that the offense started to kick it back up, you see the defense kicking it back up. It's the same with us. When our defense thrives, our offense needs to come out and thrive. We don't need to just be like, oh, the defense is doing well, we can take a few series off. No, I think we look our best when we're both feeding off each other. The defense doesn't have to press. If the defense is struggling, the offense don't have to press. It's the same thing for both teams. It's all going to come down to turning the ball over. Again, you said we had 3 turnovers in that first matchup. They had 2 missed field goals. They had a big costly penalty that took away a touchdown. It's just going to come down to who's executing, who puts up the less mistakes. Let's hope the officiating crews kind of do the way they did this past weekend and let these DBs play a little bit, because our DBs and the way we play had to be salivating watching those games because they were letting them play a little bit in the wild card round.
And they're a very inexperienced team. They did get a game at Arrowhead earlier, and they do have their first playoff game under their belt now. But I mean, still, compared to Andy Reid and the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the likes, they don't have much experience in the playoffs here. So that's definitely still an advantage for Kansas City. But as we discussed yesterday, they're kind of playing on house money. They're further along than anyone ever gave them credit to be. Everyone thought they weren't even going to make the playoffs, but now they've won a playoff game. So they're kind of coming in here. They can play free. They have nothing to lose. They're further along than everyone thought they were going to be. So there's not really that much nerves for them, to be honest. They can just go out and play. If they lose, they were supposed to lose. But if they upset the Chiefs, they shock the world.
Yeah, I'm kind of concerned with the Chiefs because we tend to get in situations where we need to go out and perform. You see us play down to our opponent. Not saying Jacksonville's bad, but we are more experienced. We have been here plenty of times. We're 1 game away from being in our 5th straight AFC Championship game. These players have been here before, minus the rookie class. Even our rookies last year have been there before. They were in the AFC Championship game last year. So our guys have grown up fast and they're there. This team has finally got some success, but they've not got total success like we have. So as long as our guys do not come out and play a little stiff, play a little like backs against the wall kind of stuff, let's just come out and play loose and execute and just be Andy coming off a bye week. We haven't even mentioned that. Andy's big off bye weeks, 85% win rate or something like that. That's huge. So we just need to come out and execute, stick to our guns, stick to our game plan, and just go out there and get a big win here. And I think it'll be possible because Arrowhead's going to be rocking, man. You can already count on that one.
I think the keys to this game is going to be ball security and just playing discipline, not getting silly penalties, because the only people that can beat the Chiefs right now are the Chiefs. And we've seen that for the last few weeks. We don't want to see that rear its ugly head in the playoffs. So let's just say they come out, play fundamentally sound, be disciplined, secure the ball, no turnovers. And I think I love our chances here.
Yeah, me too. So let's move on to Bills versus Bengals. Let's give a first look at that one. That's on the other half of the AFC bracket. Bills versus Bengals. Steve, this one's going to be in Orchard Park, it looks like. Who do you think's got the early advantage here, Bills versus Bengals?
Well, I think the Bills have the early advantage just because they get to play at home, which it should have been a neutral site by the rules that they changed. Why is it a neutral site for the Chiefs if the Bills get to the AFC Championship? That first Cincinnati and Buffalo game actually had a lot riding on it for them. If Cincinnati would have beat Buffalo that game, which they were winning when the game ended, they would have had home field advantage this game. So I think that, technically, to be fair, this one should have been neutral site, but Buffalo got it handed to them. You know how their luck goes and how the league, loves them this year. So I think they have to have the advantage at this point. I do think that the Bengals are a better team than Buffalo. I think that they're playing better than Buffalo. But everything seems to be falling in Buffalo's favor. Now, we did talk about yesterday, the Bengals are the luckiest team in football, though. So you never really know with this one. You could probably flip a coin up there to tell who's going to win this one, to be quite honest about it. But in my opinion, I think the Bengals are a better team. And besides, if the Chiefs beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, I want the Bengals in the AFC Championship because it's time for Patrick Mahomes to climb that hurdle over the Bengals and get that Lombardi and just, squash everything at one time.
Right. To me, this feels like a coin flip game. It really does. I think the NFL would prefer to see the Bills run it out because that's
Yeah,
a nice little storyline. I think that the Bengals are one of the luckiest teams under God's green earth. So yes,
yeah,
they also have that. So I don't know. What does concern me is that Joe Burrow now is on a really shaky offensive line, but he gets rid of the ball. He makes his offensive line look better than they are. They got a lot of good weapons on offense, but the Bills got a good defense. I think the Bills' strength of their team is their defense. For all the hype that Josh Allen gets, lots of turnovers, lots of red zone, lots of just forcing it down the field, just throwing it up, chucking luck, spray
right.
and pray, you name it. That's what Josh Allen does. And sometimes he gets bailed out, and sometimes his receivers make great plays, and sometimes it's blown coverage. Who knows? But yeah, the offense right now with Buffalo, I don't think is clicking all that great. But Cincinnati's defense looks pretty decent at times. Sometimes they don't look decent. I thought the Ravens come out with a border-esque high school offense and was sometimes walking it right down the field on them. And then at other times, the Bengals stopped them when it counted. So I don't really know which way it's going to go. I do think early on, I would give the Bills maybe a 1-2 point favorite, but it would not surprise me if the Bengals come out there with a win.
Well, the fact that Josh Allen is just turning the ball over at a rapid pace and the Bengals get all the bounces, they get all the luck, everyone knows that. That does bode well for them because he's going to be, like you said, chuck and luck, spray and pray. That's what Josh Allen does. And if they get a referee crew that's going to let those corners and wide receivers fight a little bit and be a little physical and not throw flags on everything, that's a lot of Josh Allen's offense. Just chucking it out there, hoping that either his receiver makes a crazy catch or they get that flag and get a free 40 yards. So, I mean, with the Bengals having all the luck, which I mean, the Bills are lucky as well, but we just seen how the ball always tends to favor the Bengals. So I feel like that bodes well for them. Like I said, honestly, just straight up, I feel like the Bengals can beat the Bills. I feel like they're the better team. But this being in Orchard Park, this being the NFL storyline, it's an uphill battle for Burrow for sure.
I would say if I had to put a score on it right now, I say Bills by a field goal. I think it's coming down to a field goal. You may even see the new overtime rules kick in this one.
Right. And also, I think the league kind of wants to test this theory of the neutral site in an AFC championship game. So if the Chiefs win, I think that they kind of want to see the Bills because they want to test that out because I really do think that's the future of the league. I think that they're going to start making the AFC and FC championships be at neutral sites and see if they can pump some more money in, make some more money like they do on the Super Bowl and just make a killing because like we talked about before, it's a business and it's smart and they could do just that.
So yeah, I read today that the Chiefs actually had petitioned the league. They had made a few requests for this neutral site, and they wanted an outdoor stadium and they wanted natural grass. You see how the league didn't take it into account. They give them an indoor stadium and artificial turf. They said they didn't want weather to be a factor. They want to shoot out. They want to sell tickets. That's all there is to it. They picked the biggest stadium they could, sell the most tickets they can,
Right.
have the craziest air show they could get out of it. It's a spectacle. The league just wants to make money. However, the league thinks they can make the most money is the way the games will go this weekend.
Yeah, well, in the Chiefs and Jags game, I would like to see a breakout from Kadarius Toney. He had a couple big games at the end of the season, and I think there's much more to come from Kadarius Toney. And there's no telling what Andy Reid has planned for this cat in the playoffs. So I'm super excited about it. You guys should be too. Get on over to our store and get the Kadarius Toney ACU player shirt. It's a number 19 Joka on the back. It has our logo on the front. It's a beautiful shirt. You can check it out right here. We're going to pop up the picture. Just get down, scroll down, go to our store, get you one. That way you can wear it and support them during this game.
Yeah, and if you don't want to support Joka for some strange reason, we got several other players. We got a Showtime. We got a Big Yeti. If you like Kelsey, baby, Big Yeti's the way to go. Other than that, plenty to choose from. We got the Shark. I think might be rocking that one this weekend. The Shark, Steve. Let's get some sacks.
Yeah, for sure. But everyone's excited for the divisional round of the playoffs. We talked about our initial reactions with the Bengals game yesterday, with the Bills game yesterday, and the first look at the Chiefs and Jags in this video right here. Make sure to check that one out. Get in the comments and let us know what you think. Hit that like button, hit the bell so you get notifications. And most importantly, guys, hit that sub button. We're trying to get to 5,000 before the season ends. We're 250 away. So make sure to click it if you haven't yet. Tell your friends to go click it, and let's get this thing done. We appreciate you, and we'll be back tomorrow with more on your Kansas City Chiefs.